right. So, animation kids, I'm recording this on Thursday, on the 19th. This is going to be your assignment for the next 2 weeks because next week is a short week. So I'm not going to give you an assignment beyond that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to make a cup, like a pencil cup, and I recommend making it a gift, but you can make it whatever you want. And it's going to be cylindrical. Now, there's a couple different ways to make a cylindrical cup. I'm going to show you one way, and I'll show you another way later. But the way we're going to do is we're going to have just drag a cylinder over here, put a cylinder in our workspace, and let's go ahead and resize this guy and make it that big and make it a little wider. There we go. Okay, so we got our cylinder. We can say, it's more or less a cylinder. Actually, let's make it much bigger to work with. Okay, so there's our cylinder. Now, when you make a cylinder, and a lot of these shapes are going to have conditions right here that you can work on. So I'll show you what bevel is in a second. Size is important because when a computer tries to render something, it has a lot of trouble with circles. Okay, in parametric rendering, it likes to make everything out of polygons. So the size basically tells you how many polygons we have. So you can make it as few as 12. It's a 12-sided polygon. And then the more size you have, the more circle-like it will be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and crank it up to 64. It looks better, it looks more like a circle, but it also makes the computer work a little bit harder. Okay, so that's just one of those things. Okay, so if I print it now, we'd have a cylinder. Boom, a little cylinder. When you click on it, you also have bevel. When you click bevel, or when you give it a bevel, it basically chamfers or fillets the sides right here on the outside. So you can kind of see what's going on. Like bevel it a whole bunch, and you get a little canister like that, and bevel it. Hey, it's a pop can. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give it a tiny bevel. I don't want to give it a huge bevel. I'm going to give it a tiny bevel, and that bevels the top and the bottom, kind of like a cup. Now, if you only wanted the top to be beveled or the bottom to be beveled, you could just drop another cylinder of equal size on top and then slide it in, but we're not going to do that. All right, so now I got a cylinder. Now to hollow it out, I'm going to put another cylinder on the workspace, and I'm going to stretch it out about the same height and give it about the same size. Now you can also, I'll show you how to do this. So I'm going to do it by hand. You can also copy and paste and just basically make the another cylinder and then shrink that one. But I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm just going to put this right on top like that. And you can make this thin or thick, but I'm going to show you thick to begin with because we're going to put text on this outside ring. Now, just like the other cylinder, we can play with the sides. We can make it more circle-like by giving it more sides. All right, so that looks like about right. That's okay, boom. Again, I'm gonna let you play with it. I'm not gonna show you, I'm not gonna make you sit through me laboring how to do this. So we got our cylinder and we got another cylinder here. Now you might notice, since both cylinders are anchored to the bottom of the workspace, there's no bottom because that first cylinder dug out that exact same, say the exact same place. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift this up, lift up the cylinder, and whatever we lifted up, that's gonna be the base. So now it's solid. Okay, so now it's gonna print the solid. All right, so there we go. There is our cylinder. All right, now we're going to add some text, and this is what I really want you to take a look at. This is really neat. There's a shape in Tinkercad that allows you to wrap text around something, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to go up our menu up here, and you're going to get featured. And at the bottom of featured, you're going to find curved words and custom font. So we're going to put curved words right up here. And it says right around here. Now this does work the online computer quite a bit. So yeah, so whatever you write in here is gonna take some time. And I'm gonna write world's best dad. World's best dad. All right, so there's we're gonna put this on the ring up here. So select our font, and as usual, you're gonna get these conditions. So the top one is going to be your font size. I think 18 is going to work. Oh yeah, by the way, if you don't want to use the sliders, you can just click on the little buttons and select them. Basically punch and stuff. So punch in 18. Okay, world's best dad. Okay, arc. Arc is how far around a circle it's going to be. By default, it's a circle all the way around. Radius is how big that circle is going to be, and I don't know how big my cup is. I didn't measure it ahead of time, but I'm guessing it's going to be in the neighborhood of 26, so I'm just going to go with 26. Height is the thickness, so we're going to need some thickness, and I'll show you why here in a second. And the tricky part about this is putting this on by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and get my text. I'm going to lift it up over my ring, and then I'm going to drag it. Maybe I'm going to drag it. Again, this does stress the computer out quite a bit. So this is all being done online on a computer somewhere else. So it does stress it out a little bit. Okay, and you might notice that it goes over the edge. So obviously my radius is a little too big. So how about, let's try 24, see what kind of luck we get with 24. No, maybe not. Come back. Okay, it's working. It's getting there. Okay, we're getting there. How about 22? We're getting closer. Oops, hey, that's the circle. I'm going to drag the text around. We're almost there. How silly it would be if it was actually just 20. And again, feel free to measure it, but I didn't measure it ahead of time. All right, well that's close enough. No, it's not. Let's make it 19. Okay. So when you're going to put text on the top, you can have it proud or you can have it embossed. So right now I've got the text up above the thing like that. That's no good. That's not going to print. So I am going to drop the text down onto the ring. Okay, grab the arrow. I'm just going to slide it down onto the ring until it is stuck on the ring. There we go. Now it'll print stuck on the ring. Okay. And when in doubt, you can make the text a little bit deeper if you want to make the height even more and just drop it down even deeper. You could do that. It just pushes it deeper into the cylinder, which is just fine. Okay, world's best dad. All right, and you can also stretch this around. You can make this a bigger angle. It's like, hey, let's go all the way around. So you can do that. Okay, totally fine. And now that actually does give us a little bit more to play with. So there we are. All right, so you have the option of raising it up proud or embossing it. If you emboss it, it's quite simple. Just put a hole. You put a hole, it's going to emboss it to whatever depth that you had it emboss. So you can emboss it in just like our last assignment, or you can bring it up proud, which is fine too. I'm going to leave mine proud for reasons that I'm going to show you here in a second. All right, so there is the top text. Now the bottom text, or the side text. Bring it over here. It's curvy text. This is totally cool. I love this feature. This feature it is a little tricky. It is a little tricky. So we're going to try our best. Inner diameter. Let me show you what this is. Inner diameter is how big the outside of that ring is. Okay. Arc is just like before. It's how far it goes around the circle. Okay. Text height, how thick it is. And this again, it takes time to process a little bit. And thickness, there's our thickness. Okay, so text, it by default gives you these crazy pyramid-like shaped letters. And world's best dad, who's dad? You're gonna put I love you. This is what I wish my 6-year-old could do. I love you. He probably will when he's older. He'll be like, I'm gonna make a cup that says world's best dad. Now, right now, if you look at this, you're going to see it's floating, so it has nothing to stick to. That's a problem. We need to get everything in there, so it's all stuck in there. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, and when it takes its time, oh, it just got sucked right in. Okay, let's try pull this out a little bit. Oh, right. Okay. So you are going to have to play a little bit with it to get it lined up. What I recommend you do is lift it up or sink it below the actual here we go. I'm going to sink it below the actual device so that I can move it over. Oh, hold on. So I can move it over and line it up just right. Okay. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to go pretty quick because I don't want to spend too much time on this because otherwise you'll get bored and stop watching. All right. So more or less lined up, and I'm going to lift it up into the cup, and there we go. I love you. It's backwards because I drew it in backwards. Oh, well, anyway, you get the idea. All right. So now here's the thing. When you print this, if you're going to print the letters proud, you have to realize that the printer is going to try to print where there is nothing. Now it can do this a little bit. Okay, it can handle this right here. It cannot handle this amount here. So if you're going to print your letters proud, then please make sure your letters are very close to your cup, like that. Okay, it can handle this. It it might be able to handle this, but it can't handle a lot. On the other hand, if you don't want to do that, you want to make sure it's going to print nice, you can just make your letters embossed. Boop. All right, now you make your letters embossed, and it's going to drill in to that, and you're going to see I love yo. Okay, so there you go. So your conditions for your assignment, what you need to do is make your cylinder. It needs to, like I said, it needs to be a cylinder, a cup-like system. It needs to be a solid on the bottom. It needs to have some text on top and the text around the back, around the side. You can do proud or emboss. It's up to you. Now, what I'm going to show you now is another little feature that we're going to be talking about later on. I'm going to leave this here with this ugly U because, well, because I don't want to take more time. Now I'm going to export it. Now some of you have exported just a single shape. If you have something selected when you export, it's going to select the selection shape to begin with. To make sure it doesn't, just click on the workspace so you have your cup here and go to export. Oh, before I do that, for those who want to put, like this, make this an actual cup and you want to put an arm on it, this is kind of neat. There's this shape, Revolver. So when you bring a revolver into the workspace, it's a shape that is basically a donut, and you can make the different sized donuts. So to do this, I'm going to make it this big, inside diameter. Again, inside diameter is interesting because you're going to learn this later on when we do a blender. The bigger the inside the diameter, the thinner the object's going to be. The smaller the inside diameter, the more, mollusk it's going to look like. Okay, again, this is the resolution, more sides, more resolution. Sketch rotation, don't worry about it. Angle, okay, if we're going to make an arm, we want about a 180-degree angle. And for reasons that I don't know, it always tries to guess what I want and then take its time. All right, so now I'm going to stretch this guy. That's going to look nice. Maybe a little bit thinner, maybe just a tad bit thinner. We'll see. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to flip it up into the object. Flippy, flip, 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 flippy, flip, flip. There we go. I flipped it into the object and I'm going to flip it again so it sticks to, there we go. And then I'm just going to stick it on wherever it's lined up. So I'll just stick it on there and bring it up. There we go. Now arms are tricky just because, or these little arms are tricky just because you're asking at one point the printer to print where there is nothing. Okay, so just realize that that can happen. That is something, but you can play around with it because if you're going to ask your printer to print where there isn't anything, this gap under it is going to be a problem. Okay, but it can be done. Okay, no problem. Can certainly be done. All right, so we'll just export like that. So it's got a flat surface right there. All right, so I'm going to unclick and export STL. Now where I'm going for the next session is my slicing software, so you can see what happens when I slice. I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to switch my window capture. I'm doing this all in one take because I don't feel like editing this. I'm going to click OK, and that's my slicing software. I'm going to bring in my funky Garis. There we go. All right, so here's the cup. Now you'll notice the bottom of the cup is floating because I have this arm right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically slice it. I'm going to say, let's make the bottom right here and chop off everything below that. So keep upper part. Chop. There we go. Now we're on the bottom, and we made a cup. Okay, cool. Now that's all lined up. We don't need anything else there. All right, so we got our line. We got the cup. It's solid on the bottom. We have enough surface here that the printer's not going to try to freak out when it tries to print the curve. If you try to print, again, 3D printers, you're laying down small lines of plastic. If you don't have a big, thick arm, it's simply not going to work. All right, and I got the I love yo in there. And now I'm going to slice it. This is what I want you to see. I'm going to print this at 10% to make it kind of light. Again, infill. If you watch my previous video, infill is how much a solid thing gets filled up. So this is 10% infill. See these X's? All right. If you have a 50% infill, then those X's are going to be a lot closer together. Okay. So 10% is usually a pretty good number. So 10%, I'm going to slice it. All right, and we sliced it. Now, I'm going to show you something you can do. Totally optional, but a lot of fun. And I love doing this. Is we're going to do two color printing. So when I get to the red, there's the red right there. The red is the exterior and a perimeter, and I'm done. I'm going to basically click right there. And what I'm saying is make everything below that click one color. And when you get here, the printer is going to stop and say, put a different filament in, and it's going to print the remainder with a different color. Totally optional, but a lot of fun. Okay, so that way you can have two different colors. Yeah, there you go. And notice 6 hours for a 7mm, 8mm cup. So this is a pretty small cup. Um, yeah, so these things do take a long time to print. And as usual, first assignments that come in good, first gets printed. All right, that's it. Hopefully this is educational and this gives you a good idea, some ideas. Please don't be limited by what I put. Feel free to put designs all over your cup. The only thing you are required to do is make a cylindrical cup, text on top, either proud or embossed, text on the outside, either proud or embossed, and we're good. Okay. If you want to put your name in here, if you're like, you could say, by Johnny, So I would say by Chris, 11/19/20. Then you'll have an heirloom that your parents will treasure forever. And they're like, look what you made when you were 16. You're now 36, and everything is different. So they're like, oh, I remember when you were 16. So there you go. All right, that's what my spiel. Hopefully this is educational. I will see you later. If, as usual, if you have any questions, email or put them in chat when we're in class. Bye bye.